right, welcome back to Gun Bunny Customs. And this afternoon, it came in. So today is the day. So this morning, I got the email from Hasbro that my 3 Dragonflies had shipped. And seriously, not even 4 hours later, the FedEx guy was knocking on the door, and he had them. And so I already opened up one and put it together, the one that I'm going to keep stock. And I did that for a couple of reasons, because it gave me kind of a dry run walkthrough of putting it together and seeing how things connect, and then seeing where the connection points were for the toy. Because, you know, just like the Hiss, just like the Vamp, just like the Stinger, just like the Trouble Bubble, just like the Ram, just like the Fortnite boat and everything else, I'm going to show you how to break it down. So it's going to be a challenge, I think, for this one, because it doesn't seem to have as many visible access points as the Hiss had. So I don't know if that's because the design of the body is a little bit simpler, or as the Hiss, you had the sort of the driver's, you know, cockpit area and everything that went along with that, the electronics and the way that plugged into the fuselage of the toy, the body of the toy. And then it also had the rear compartment with the the turret with the station for the gunner, the seats, the weapons rack, and then all the electronics that ran through that. So this seems to be a little bit more simpler, so it doesn't seem like I've been able to see as many visible screws and access points like I was with the Hiss, but we're gonna give it a crack anyways. Before I get into, you know, diving into that, I do want to kind of go over it briefly and kind of give my opinion on certain things, and also maybe to try certain things to help people out, because I know a lot of people have been breaking this cockpit. Unfortunately, my buddy, Mr. Spec, Mr. Toy Optics, accidentally cracked his live on a Toy Kind of Mood. And shout out to my boys from Toy Kind of Mood. Doing a great job there. So what I want to see is if you apply some heat to it before you start trying to, you know, pry it open, due to the molding, to see if maybe that'll alleviate some of that stress. Because sometimes when you have the sort of C-notch where this peg fits into it, just because of molding, it'll have a portion that's a little bit bigger, and it's not, you know, completely smooth, so it catches, you know, before, you know, friction wears it down. And unfortunately, it's causing too much stress because of how brittle this is. So I wondered if we can maybe heat that up and get it soft, and get it to be able to move a little bit better. Less people will have to, you know, deal with the broken canopy and then deal with Hasbro's customer service. So, I mean, it could be just a simple fix like that. Okay, so I did what I said we're gonna do. We're gonna do a little side cut right here. So I applied heat to the joint on both of these, and I left it on, you know, I left it with the heat on there for, I don't know, maybe about 20-30 seconds. And then I started gently kind of working it back and forth, and then a little bit more and a little bit more. Because what you can see here, there's like a little bar right here, and then there's another one on the inside, and that's what goes over itself to catch. So then that way it can be in the up position for the you know, for that effect for, you know, toy photography or whatever. So if you just mess with that when it's cold, without there being a little bit of give, and then you going over it a few times to kind of, you know, let them work against each other and smooth out a little bit, it's gonna cause a lot of pressure here, which is why that stuff is breaking. But if you do that and you heat it up with your hair dryer or your heat gun, and then you leave it on there for like I said, 30 seconds, work it back and forth real gently, and you'll feel that breaking point. You'll feel it go over that, what is that, like the fulcrum, whatever it is, the middle point. And then I did it 2 or 3 times for each one, and so now it goes up very cleanly, and there's just enough catch for it to stay and come back down and go right back into place with no stress. Same thing with this one. And it depends on also how rough you're going to be with it, because if you're just going to pull it from one side and rip it up, yeah, it's going to be too much pressure. You got to be kind of really gentle with it. It's just this thin, clear plastic, so it's really brittle. So you gotta give it that heat gun treatment, and then be real gentle with it, and work it in and out. and then I don't think you'll have any problems with it. And then that way it'll save you, you know, waiting on Hasbro to send you a replacement. All right, now that was for my boy Spec and for the guys at A Toy Kind of Mood, and we will see you in the rest of the video. The next thing we're gonna do, and then like I said, then I'm just gonna go over my opinion of it briefly, over the components, and then we're gonna jump right into trying to take it apart. Now, my initial thought was when I pulled it out, I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it is. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. With the Hiss, I expected it was gonna be seriously a, you know, a 10 out of 10, 12 out of 10, and it was for me. This one I was expecting like an, you know, like an 8.5, but it's the same to me. It's just as exciting, it's just as awesome as the Hiss, and I'm glad that I got it, because for a while there I was kind of regretting it, thinking like I wasn't going to like it. It doesn't look as good as the Hiss, it's not as exciting as the Hiss, but I was dead wrong. Now, even though I do feel that way, that it has, you know, a ton of good, there is a very small amount of bad. Watch out, baby. And a lot of it is just personal preference stuff. To me, right? It's just, you know, just like everybody else, my opinion of it. Stop, baby, get down. And it's just my personal preference of it. So the first thing that, you know, I'm gonna go over of the stuff that it's kind of questionable to me is the chin gun. And it's not that I don't like the chin gun. I just think they could have put a little bit more detail in there, or they could have made it look a little bit more like the original one. And if you remember, the original one had two versions, where it had either two cannons on the front, and it just had a little bit more detail. To me, this looks really kind of plain Jane. It just sort of you know, I don't know. I just think that they could have added a little bit more to it. Maybe, you know, some kind of sensor or optic or something like that that's on there. You know, some kind of hose, something, because it does look really simple. And this also doesn't turn, which, I mean, I guess that's not that big of a deal, but I figured for what we paid for and what we waited for, that it would kind of turn. To me, a lot of people, to me, the landing gear seems pretty good. A lot of people have commented about how thin it looks and how small it looks, and that it's hollow. And yes, the bottom portion of it's hollow, but this portion, the actual legs of it that connect to the fuselage, aren't. These are solid. So this is where all the weight bearing is going to go, not so much to here. So it's going to all go into the curve of this. But while I'm working on this, I'm going to keep this on here so I don't, you know, just for safety precaution, that I don't mess it up. Other than that, I really like the way that everything came out. I like the weapons. I like the options of weapons that you get. I don't really care for these, and it's just, the only reason is this looks a little bit more period correct, sort of that Vietnam era to early 80s era armament. And so that's what I like in it, and how I visualize and I guess play with my G.I. Joes as if they are still of that era. So that's why I like going with those. So with the one that I have set up in my display already, that's what I have on there. Okay, and so here's the back portion, and this is pretty cool. It's two pieces, you know, smushed together, and then this is where you would put these. I mean, everybody's seen the unboxing videos and how-to videos, so like I said, I'm just going to kind of briefly go over it. But as far as I can tell, as far as me having to break it down to paint it, right, and the whole purpose of breaking this down is to give us the cleanest paint job possible. So when I break these vehicles down, it isn't for anything else more than to get the best paint job I can get out of it. It's not to give up Hasbro secrets, or, you know what I mean, or, you know, some personal, you know, vendetta against Hasbro or anything like that, or, you know, giving it to their competitors. It's just me not wanting to fuck up all the great detail that they put in there, like, you know, all the seats and stuff like that, and the controls of the cockpit, you know, and then just the detail of the overall vehicle. You want to make it as clean as possible, and the best way to do that is to just to break it down. So that's why I do it. And then to show you guys, in case you want to, you know, break it down as well, so that way you can paint it. Now, so far, I haven't seen anybody else paint a his tank, but I'm not on Facebook, so there might be some on Facebook. But as far as Instagram or YouTube, I've yet to see anybody else break down and paint a his, which is, I guess, cool and not cool at the same time. Okay, so then we're gonna get into a couple other things that I didn't really care for, but it's almost basically the same thing. Now, I do love the stand. The stand is awesome. And this, yes, we're gonna paint this as the Tiger Force Tigerfly, because everybody knows I'm a Tiger Force and Python Patrol whore. So I'm also gonna paint this base as well, and it's gonna be, you know, the Tiger Force colors, and I'm gonna paint the Tiger Force logo on there to match. So then that way, it you know, it all looks good in the display. Now, the issue that I have, really, and this is the biggest issue, is the decals, and these are the two issues that I have, or, you know, I guess you could say. One is I put this decal on my base. I love that vintage nose art like that. I think it looks fucking awesome. But the stinger and the wings come so far off of the circular sort of inset that it makes it difficult to center on here. Now, I realize that's how the original one was on the actual toy. So I'm not really mad at that design. I'm just mad that it wasn't, I don't know, this one wasn't designed to fit better. So if you make this, where the rope is, where the rope border is, if you make that centered on here, this stinger hangs off the edge. So if you keep the stinger on here, then the circular shape of the sticker is offset in it, and that doesn't look good to me. So I ended up putting mine as centered as I could, and having a little bit of the tail hanging off. Now, the other issue I had with the Dragonfly stickers is I really wanted to put these on, and I wanted to put them on because I wanted to mimic that original 1983 look. Unfortunately, the way that they made these stickers, they just I don't know if they made them just to make them. I don't want to say it like that, but if you put them on here, there's really no clear place for them. It's going to go over some kind of detail, or it's going to go over one of the other paint apps. And so it's just a really, I don't know, it was a detail that I was sort of excited to put on, and then once I realized that there's really no clean place to put it. And not that they would have to design the front of this to fit that, but just, I don't know, clear enough area to where you could lay that on cleanly, and give instructions in the instruction manual of how to lay those on cleanly, how to lay the teeth on cleanly, because they are not just one big sticker. From what I understand, it's multiple stickers, right? So each one of those is a sticker, so that means it's meant to fit through the molded in detail and the paint, but you don't know how. You'd have to figure it out. And taking these, and I can tell you from putting the decal on my first one, these stickers are very thin, and that the adhesion on them is crazy. So I barely let part of that sticker hit that base, man, and it was on, and it took, it took a little bit of effort to get that off without stretching out that sticker or ripping it or distressing the image. So that's my complaint. They don't have instructions to lay this on cleanly, and I understand it's the customizing portion of where you could kind of put it wherever you want, but to me, these stickers are a huge miss. I don't think anybody, even somebody like me who would buy multiples, would ever put something like this on their actual Dragonfly. Why would you? Whoever saw or thought of or wanted like a rat fiend style Dragonfly? Now, I think that's a cool image. Don't get me wrong. I think that's a fucking awesome image, and that's a cool sticker just in and of itself. But who really was looking for that? Is there anybody really gonna put this sort of Frankenstein-esque looking stuff on there? And even this kind of stuff like the Yeehaw Champion, I just think it's a lot of effort, time, money put into something that is basically useless to me. It's almost like the patches on the Rattler. Nobody was looking for the Yeehaw Champion sticker, or Butch and Sundance and stuff like that. They were looking for, Wild Bill Hardy. They were looking for Franklin Roundtree. They were looking for stuff that I feel was more true to the original, and sort of throwing on these extra kidsy stuff that's just a waste of time and money. I don't honestly see anybody using the vast majority of this. And even the stickers that they added with the hiss were really cool, and they weren't over the top goofy like this, and still nobody used them. You know what I mean? Or very, very few people used them. Okay, so now that we're done with the opinion part and the kind of going over part, and I realize it's took a little bit longer than I thought. Now we're going to get into the part where we mess with this cockpit. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take off this cockpit. And so if it's anything like the Hiss tank, it just sort of would wiggle out. Now I might, oh look, and I had it, there we go. And it does, it just wiggles out just like that. And you can see what I'm talking about. When it catches, that catching point needs a few passes of friction on there to make it smooth. So you got to be really gentle with that and not try to stress it out. So maybe, like I said, we'll try a little bit of heat and see how that works. But I'm glad it came out with no issues. So that means it's going to be able to pop back in with no issues, just like the Hiss one. So that's a big win for us right there. Now, like I said, the reason that I break these down and I take them apart is to give me the ability to make the cleanest paint job that I can. If I didn't take this apart, all of that green, all of that olive drab green in there really wouldn't be able to be painted cleanly, and keeping all of this, clean as well. So to me, there's no reason to paint the seats in this cockpit area, this cockpit bucket with all of the instrument panels. To me, I mean, because it's black. It's it's real utilitarian. It's going to match with anything. So we want to get this out and the electronics out, so that way we don't get paint and we don't get paint and overspray all over them. And then when we put them back in, it's going to have the clean coloring on the inside, so it's going to look legit. It's going to look like it's factory. The other thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take these doors off. And from what I can tell, once we pull this apart, because it's at least two pieces, and I want to say it's two big pieces here. It looks like a small piece here, and then the nose. This is one piece. This panel inside of here is another piece. The skids are another piece. These panels right here are separate and some kind of connecting piece, and it looks like these are going to have to maybe be pulled, and they're going to have screws underneath it. Those pieces are separate. And then looks like the engine piece is a separate piece, as well as the engine insert in here as well. And I want to get that out, so then that way we don't get no overspray on it, because it's painted already so beautifully. There's no reason to repaint that. And then it looks like this top portion here is another piece. So it's going to be, each side is going to be 5 or 6 pieces, I would imagine. And we'll have to keep all those laid out and clean, take them apart cleanly, and then kind of paint them all together simultaneously to get the fade and the tiger stripes and all that stuff that we all love Tiger Force for. Now with the Hiss, almost, I don't want to say almost, but the majority of the screws that held that vehicle together were visible. You could see them. Right now, I can only see one visible screw, and that's in there. Only one visible screw, and that's it, other than for the battery compartment. Now, I do see this little round plug right here, and if my instincts are right, they're doing the same thing here like what they did with the Ram, where they put a plug in over the screw hole, which means we're going to have to heat up an X-Acto knife, stick it in there, pull that plug out to let us get to that screw. And those are going to be the first two that we try. The other thing that I think is going to be difficult is this kind of rubberized nose piece, because I have no doubt that thing is just snapped in there to keep the front part connected. And that is going to be a bitch to take off. So that might require a lot of heat, a lot of prying, and we want to be careful because we obviously do not want to damage it. Okay, so that is sort of the overview of it right now of what I feel like we can take apart as far as screws visible. I don't think I'm going to take this apart. I don't think it's necessary to take this apart. The moving pieces aren't connected, and I'm probably not even. And then you have this piece here, this sort of, I don't know, kind of looks like a wire nut at the end, but I'm probably just going to paint this all together with it on. There's going to be no reason to take that off. Those are going to kind of just reinsert back in, and same with these. And I don't think there's any reason to go through the trouble. And here you can see more screws. There's 2 screws there. And then when you open this up, again, there's 2 screws there. And so that's where you would take that apart. But like I said, it's really not worth taking apart to me anyway. So I'm going to keep that together. And the other thing is, some people were asking if once you snap this in, is it permanent? Does it come back out? I think it's possible for it to come back out. And the reason is this: they made it to where it's a push button here. It's not, I don't know. It just seems like there's going to be some sort of tolerance to where once it'll snap in, it'll snap back out, because everything seems to be that way, that it snaps in just enough to hold, but then that you can break it back down, because you got to put it back in the box to move it around, because otherwise it'd be crazy, right? So at least that's my opinion. But since we're not going to be messing with that, breaking that down, we're just going to put that off to the side, and not mess with it. Okay, so now that's going to be it for the first video of me kind of going over it and breaking down what I think is going to be the best possible steps. So you can kind of see here that this is a different plate, and that's what I do. I look for breaks in the plate to where you see that it's 2 different pieces connecting, because then at some point, whether it's going internally sideways or post going up and down, it connects some way. And so Hasbro is pretty smart in the way that they hide their screws and stuff now. So like I said, I'm just going to start taking a crack at it and see what I can find. All right, so that's it for the first video in this episode of breaking down the newly released G.I. Joe Classified Dragonfly, and it is an amazing toy. All right, thank you for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Check me out on Instagram, and stay tuned for the progress in this project. Thank you, and have a good night.